Hello, everyone, and welcome to our spotlight sessions. I absolutely love these sessions because we get to talk to wonderful business owners such as Kerry, who's business owner very well. And we get to hear all about what she does, how she's grown a successful business, and behind the scenes of taking it from a one-woman band to stepping up to the plate and growing a sustainable business. So Kerry's here today to share her story with us. I'm Kerry, just going to look at my phone a moment and share this in places it should be relevant. Why don't you introduce yourself and let people know what it is you do and who it is you serve and how you help?
Yeah, sure. Hi guys. So I'm Kerry Moorse, and I help business owners with all of the funnel tech. So everyone knows they need funnels, right? Or they've already got one and they just don't have it directed. We come in, we do the strategy, build, design, tech, all of that stuff, and take that headache off. And that's what we do. So who do I help? Mostly coaches, online entrepreneurs, people who have online services such as teaching other people how to do things like, podcast, how to do your podcast, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's what we do. And that's me and my business. We've got a team now, thanks to the lovely Skye. And we work in a variety of ways, collaborations and one-to-one and projects.
And it would be fair to say, Kerry, like you and I have known each other for quite some time because we were in a mastermind together. And would it be fair to say that your business is it's adapted, hasn't it, over the past 18 months? So we haven't worked together for a few months now, but even before that, you were kind of always working out what is the business structure need to create a business that was work for your lifestyle and the way you wanted to work. And what I love, and it'd be great for you to kind of share kind of why that was the case, because it would be fair to say your business is, but particularly at this time, it was a phenomenal success. I remember you being, if you don't remember me saying, quite emotional about it, because it was constant. Can you remember when we sat there chatting, you were just like, this is too much, and you're too successful. And you cared so much about every individual, and I know you still do, that it was just all consuming. Do you want to just take us back to that time and kind of how you were working with people?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned how fluid, everything's changed. Everything seems to continually change and adapt. And I think that's just part of business. I mean, when we first met, I think my biggest problem was I was just overwhelmed and all of that kind of thing. And that's the first time you said, Kerry, I need to work with you. And at that point, I was like, I hadn't invested really much in myself before and my business and things. I was still in that stage of doing everything. I was the everything go to, the only person in my business. No one else was good enough. No one else could do what I needed them to do. So that was me. And I was kind of that person in the middle of it all. And then business grew and grew, and I had to let go of lots of things I was doing to keep up, so to speak. And I was on that hamster wheel of just going and going. I never stopped to celebrate where I was. I never started to even realize where I was and how that it was actually going okay. It was always in that mode of, I've got to do this, I've got to do this, I've got to do this. Mm-hmm. So when we started working together, that was what we were changing, so to speak. So yeah, going from that, and I think we did a survey, didn't we? And I was a people pleaser and a hurry up driver. So I wanted everything done fast, but I also was a people pleaser and couldn't say no, but wanted to do everything to the top level. So it was kind of this weird mix of constantness.
And you, like so many people I know and work with and have the privilege to work with, are one of those huge, big-hearted entrepreneurs who just want desperately to help and do absolutely anything you can do to help. And that's brilliant. And you built an amazing business reputation completely on referrals based on how good you are at what you did, how speedily you worked, and how much you cared for all your clients. But all of a sudden your client base was absolutely enormous. And you were juggling all the plates, and I just saw the water rising. And I remember saying to you, and I'm not normally forceful, but I was like, Kerry, we have to work together. And I remember being really terrified about taking that leap because of what it meant in terms of bigger business or team and stuff. So I mean, we're going to come back to that. I'm calling that now excuse for anyone who's got children around, but that fuck it moment where you're like, right, I'm got to change this. This has got to be different. I'm going to go all in a different way. And I'd love to hear about like what was that moment for you in terms of that effort moment.
That effort moment. Gosh, so for me, I think I was working like crazy, and I was falling out of love with what I was doing. And I think it was a case of it just had to change because we had more growth coming that we could see, and I couldn't see a way out. I couldn't see how I was going to physically manage it all with with it going forward. And I think I was trapped in a world of not wanting to drop anybody, and so I couldn't grow because I was at that ceiling. That was where I was. That was it. I was at max capacity. I didn't want to raise rates. I didn't want to do anything like that. I didn't want to drop any clients. And a lot of people will understand this. You get so attached, and you get into that rhythm, and that's how it is. So yeah, that was my point when I was like, there's more coming. I'm not going to be able to cope. It's going to crash. And I kind of was crashing a little bit. And that's when it was like, right, Skye, what are we going to do?
One of my favorite stories to tell about working with you, Kerry, is that I remember us doing like the preliminary day, and it's like, so how many hours, Kerry, do you think you work? Right, let's work this all out. Yeah, 60-hour weeks. I'm doing 60-hour weeks. And then we got the facts, and was like, Kerry, that 60-hour week is every week like a 90-hour week. You do like a full-time job on top of what you think you do. I remember that being like quite an eye-opener for you, being like, no wonder I feel like this. Like,
yeah,
this has to change.
That was a huge moment, wasn't it? Because I use a system called Paymo, guys. So it wasn't just writing down on a piece of paper. It tracks my time, like every minute of my day. So it was quite easy for me to do the time tracking because it was something I was already doing. But I'd never looked back like that. It was only so I could allocate time of what was spent where. It was never so I could see how much I was working and what could be offloaded. It was a real eye-opener. I had no idea either. I was clueless about how much I was working. I was just obsessed.
And there's no judgment in any of this to anyone. We can work 90-hour weeks if that's what we choose. We can work 60-hour weeks. We can work 6-hour weeks. It's whatever feels good for us in our business. But the point was, you couldn't, like, there was a disconnect between what you were doing and what your perception and your reality. What you thought you were doing and what you were actually doing were two different things. And when we brought the two together, we're like, I now see why I'm having some of these challenges, and what now we have to make changes in the business setup and the business structure, in the way you work, and getting the right support on board. And I know one of your key members of support, your right-hand person, is in fact your husband. So he left his job and we're working together. Tell us about that and what it's like working as a husband-wife duo in your business.
Yeah, do you know what? I was really wary of it at the start because we'd been traveling together, guys, and during that time I was starting my business. Basically, I was making money to keep traveling. That's what my whole business was about, and that's how I got into funnels. And my husband, did he help? No. Did he chill out a lot? Yeah, he just organized the travels and did all that stuff. And yeah, and I was a bit like, oh, if we do this, is he going to actually get anything done? Is it actually going to work? But yeah, I mean, he's been phenomenal. He's come on. He left his job because COVID as well. He was in his school, so it was kind of perfect timing. So he came on. Skye helped on board all of that. I can hear him coming in the front door now.
Yeah, be nice about him.
Yeah, I've got to be nice now.
No, he is amazing. People can be nice about him.
And it's a whole different way. I mean, I can talk to him about the business without the glaze as well. And he's into it, and sort of he gets as much out of it as I do now. He takes care of a lot of our admin side. He's great with customer service. I mean, I would never have realized that. He's really on it, and yeah, it's worked really well. It's given us so much more time together as well. Yeah. So Skye was just saying, like, last week we went paddleboarding together in the afternoon because we could. So it's made a huge difference to that. The whole way I view time, it's gone from the 9 to 5 to time just being like a continuous sort of work-life merge, rather than these times are work, this time is not work. So it's taken us away from that mindset of I work in the day and then I get a couple of hours in the evening, to it's when things can happen, they happen.
Yeah, and doing things as together. And what I love about this situation with you and Ryan is we really identified how Ryan could bring, like, he was so, what's the word, like, he's so proud of you and the business that you have built, and he never wanted to, like, he's not one to take the limelight or any of that stuff, but he had some really great skills that he wasn't recognizing how he could utilize within the business. And then all of a sudden he was like, wow, he's in these meetings with all the facts, like everything, this is what's happening and this was happening. I'm like, my goodness, we're building a business on data. And that is a part that you didn't have your finger on a pulse. And he's been able to come in and you've been able to make better decisions because of him being in the business. And it was great to see his confidence come out as well throughout that process and be able to really, support you. And, clearly with the direction that you want to take things in, because you were the expert, because up until that point, you were doing so much for yourself. I know you have other team members as well who do a phenomenal job in helping you too. Tell us more about kind of your team and what you've learned over growing a multi-six-figure business.
Oh goodness. So my core team, it's really a little bit more about empowerment and giving them kind of a role rather than a task. Mm-hmm. So that's something we've learned definitely along the way. And I think finding the right fit from the start, I think that is huge, because otherwise it's kind of a bit of a spiral. So it's definitely making that right fit from the beginning. But yeah, I think it's about crafting that position where someone can feel they have ownership over it, which is the big difference to when we used to be more task-based. Oh, can you just edit this in this page with this loom and do it exactly like this? Whereas now we would just say, okay, we've got a sales page, here's the brief, jump in, give it a go. Then I'll go in afterwards to go and, do what I want to do. And they're well aware of that. But it takes up a lot of that time, for example, of that initial build, and because they know how I like things to be done. So yeah, and the SOPs have really helped both the team. So, mapping out how things are done properly, guys. But both for the team and for my clients as well, because things like a lot of our clients need the same things: how to add us as a user on Facebook Ads Manager, how to add us so we can sort out their payments connections, things like that we've just got that we can send, make a huge difference. Massive difference is email templates. Yeah. I used to onboard people and write them a massive, long, personalized email. This is the whole project, this is the step, this is the timeline, and I would just write it every single time. It's take like an hour over this onboarding email, then with the contracts, and then they'd ask questions and I'd go back. So now we have, every service has its own intro that I can just tweak little things. So yeah, massive time savers.
Yeah, and it is still about being personalized. It's still about being really like bespoke when you need to be, but having a degree of formatted stuff. So you can actually spend more time on making it personalized rather than having to rewrite all the bulk stuff.
100%. Yeah, every project's different, but knowing that, for the sales, say the sales page, we need all of these things, please. And then I can go and add anything extra or anything tweaked. It's just, yeah.
Yeah. So good to hear you say this. But let's be honest, it hasn't all been plain sailing. People come into the business, things don't always work out. Well, how have you managed to cope with that change and that kind of, as business owners, we often, like, particularly when growing a team and bringing people in-house, like, that can feel quite daunting and scary. Like, how have you managed, how do you cope with making those decisions? Because I know you took them very, very seriously, and you take the responsibility seriously.
Yeah. So for us, it was more the fear of being a good manager, making sure it worked out for them, are they upskilled, all of those kind of things. And yeah, some people haven't worked out, and to be honest, the terror was how to deal with that. What do you do when someone doesn't produce and there's not much more you can do about it? That was a real scary point for me. And I'm not not very confrontational. So going into that position of explaining it in a way which lets someone else make the decision on their own work was a huge game changer. And I remember when you were talking me through that, that was massive. And I now know, though, that I can go into that situation in the same way next time. So I think it's really practice and doing it in a way that feels good to everybody, if that makes sense, rather than it being so so corporate almost. You know, oh, one strike, here's the tick box HR style. It's more of a relationship.
Yeah, it is all about relationships, just the same as it is with clients. Like, that's what we're saying, like clients, like they're outward facing, you look after them, we know what to do with them, but it's just the same. You just spin my chair. You just look at behind the scenes, and you've got to treat team in the same way with communication standards and all of that stuff. So tell us then how things have progressed, because one of the things I know we were really pleased when we did like our summary call at the end of working together quite a few months ago. We did manage to get your working week average down to 60 hours a week, which, you know, some people might be like, well, that's loads, but that's a third saved whilst you doubled your business at the same time. So how, you know, what does life look like now, and what's your vision for the future for your business? Like how have things changed for you over the last 12 months?
So things have changed quite a lot, I think. So we just had our end of year at the beginning of May. We actually tripled the business turnover from the previous year. Yeah, it's insane. And that's all through some of the structures we put in place and the swap over of the style of services we're offering. Being able to do that, which was, it still blows my mind. But I think a big takeaway for me is the ability to relax. So having Ryan on board, say doing the sales stats, and I know where things are, that means I can relax and not have to take on everything all the time. I'm getting into a space now where my lifestyle is just as important as my business. And it's almost believing in that a bit more, you know, taking time for myself, knowing that it's okay not to take it all on. That's the biggest shift for me. I don't, you know, if we have a smaller year, we have a smaller year, but my priority is doing it so that it works for me rather than always working for everybody else, I guess. So that I can prioritize those people that are working with me as well in a bigger way, so that they're hugely supported rather than just trying to support all of the masses. So it's really good that way.
Yeah. Oh God, you're giving me like goosebumps all over to hear you say that, because you were in very much like like short term, like it was just get through each day or each week. And now, like, to hear you translate that to like, actually, this is what the plan is for this year. And yeah, things change, don't they? You know, we say business is an ever evolving picture. Nothing's harmonious and perfect. But to hear you talk about, no, you're going to put like your health, your time first as a priority, as well as your client and business. That's a huge change for you, Kerry.
Yeah. I mean, my business was my only priority, but now that's just shifted massively over the last like maybe 4 or 5 months, where now we're in a place where it's much easier. I mean, I didn't really work much of April, and I didn't panic about it. I took like a week off for my birthday. The following week, I just blocked it out because I didn't want any new calls coming in. And I would never, ever have blocked a week out to stop new calls coming in before, because I would have panicked and gone, but if I don't allow people to book in their new calls, I won't have any work because I need a, you know, turnover of clients. Whereas I had that comfortability level to be able to do that, and the world didn't crash down. So it was great.
Amazing. So if you could give some advice to people out there who are maybe in your position of like feeling like they're drowning a little bit, or they've just got too many projects on, or they're feeling the fear that you did around like, oh, you know, they needed to stay being the doer, the busy doer, doing everything themselves. Like, what advice would you give to someone who's just frightened of taking the next step?
So there's probably 2 things I'd say. One is what if they don't take that step and they get busier and busier? Where are they going to be? So in 5 years' time, can they see themselves being as crazy busy as they are right now? If that's not a good picture. It needs to change. And the other one is to let go of the fear. It's just as scary to let go of being on the hamster wheel as it is to be on it. So you kind of have to really decide what you want, and go for it, because if you stay on that, it drives you crazy. I mean, eventually, I mean, it took me 5 years to decide it was going to drive me crazy and come to you and be like, I'm going crazy. But yeah, I think letting go of that fear is the scariest part. It's you hold on to it because it's what you know, it's what you're comfortable with. You've been in that world and it's been working. It makes the money, everyone's happy, it works. Sometimes it doesn't, that's okay. You just work harder to fix anything that doesn't. And then you're comfortable there. So it's almost stepping out of the comfort zone to get comfortable. Again, like I found at first I was really uncomfortable relaxing. In April, when I took that week off, I was like, what am I going to do? I felt on edge. I was like, I did not know what to do with my time. I literally hadn't got a clue. So, those in between times where you've got half an hour here or half an hour there between doing things, I was just like, well, I could check my emails, but I better not, it was hard. So it's, that let go.
Okay, that's fantastic. Thank you. And Kerry, where can people find you? Like, what's the best way to connect with you?
Probably a DM. Either to DM me, or I've got a free Facebook group called What the Funnel. So that's a whole lot of fun in there. That's probably the best place to come if you're after funnel stuff. But yeah, that's me.
And Kerry helps with so many amazing things, not just like the techie details and the funnel, like the strategy. It really inspires me in my business about what I can do to drive visibility, lead generation, and ultimately sales. So I would highly recommend her group, What the Funnel. I love the name to start with. And also she's super on hand there to answer questions and get to know her a lot more. Kerry, is there anything you feel like we've missed in our conversation, or anything you wanted to add onto there before?
No, I just want to tell everyone that you're a game changer. Like, yeah, that's it, guys. Skye was a game changer for me. There's not much more to say than that. But your faith in the process gave me faith in the process. You were unmovable in, this is how it needs to change, and I'm pretty good at avoiding change, guys. So keeping me on the straight and narrow was somehow a feat of amazement. So yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I am more embarrassed now, but I take working with every single one of my clients so seriously, and I'm just thrilled that you have, you've made the progress you have, and that you can see the sustainable long-term vision for your business, because you're so incredibly talented. And that's the thing that I held on to with my clients, like particularly working with you, I could just see this talent, and I was just wanted you to get off that hamster wheel and be able to shine, and the results speak for themselves. So you did the work, Kerry, and it was an absolute pleasure to guide you through it. But you are a total dream person to work with in either way, as client or as, me being a client of you and you being a client of mine. So thank you so much for trusting in me. Well, I'm going to draw this interview to a close.